All right,
Cold check.
we're back on the air
Landfall.
here. We are back on the air. We're just looking at the webcam from Fort Myers right now.
This one.
We wanted to preserve that. I mean, it's a bit sad that YouTube has that 12-hour limit, that where you
Yes.
go beyond the 12 hours and you just lose everything. So I really felt it was necessary to stop the stream at that point and preserve what we had. And because people are going to want to watch that back and watch how our coverage unfolded, and watch what happened in real time, one day in the future. So here we are for one more hour, and as promised in the title, as we wait for the 11 p.m. advisory, first of all we've got to get through the 10 p.m. update statement, which we're going to find information about shortly. They'll be producing that statement, and I doubt there'll be that much new information on it. A lot of people will have been shunted over to the US stream where it was showing live radar, I think. So hopefully they know that we're back. I mean, we did say we would be. As we keep looking at this webcam at Fort Myers, looking at what's going on here with lots of surface water still quite evident there, despite the poor visibility. I still can't tell on the left there, left carriageway, whether it's actually surface water or not there. But there we go. The storm, when you look at it on the top left hand side of the image, looks like it is weakening quite a bit. The eye of the storm is still quite visible, but not very, near Sebring and continuing up northeastwards. This is Force 13 Live. We're about to get an update from the NHC. We'll let you know what they come out with on their update statement. We've not really got anything else to talk about in the meantime. Just to... oh, the update is out, and they have dropped it to 100 miles per hour and a pressure of 968 millibars. Tropical storm conditions are occurring over a wide swath of the Florida peninsula. An automated station at the Everglades Airport, located west of Lake Okeechobee, recently reported sustained winds of 42 miles per hour with a gust of 56. A weather flow station located at Skyway Beach in St. Petersburg recently measured sustained winds of 46 with a gust of 51. A weather flow station located at Melbourne Beach Barrier Island Sanctuary recently reported sustained winds of 42 miles an hour and a gust to 58. So as of 10 p.m, the storm is located at 27.4 north, 81.5 west, and is now 100 miles per hour and a pressure of 968, just as we lose that camera, it seems. So we'll change that bottom bar in a moment, but another position estimate there, putting the storm at 100 miles per hour. Looks like we've lost a lot. Some more of those webcams near Fort Myers that we actually had earlier. So the choices of cameras to choose from are getting very thin now. We really don't have very many at all to show across the whole region. Maybe eventually, shortly or fairly soon, it might be time to start looking at some of the cameras further north when we look towards the Orlando, Kissimmee area. And well, let's take a look and see what it looks like near... Should we look at Lakeland? Let's see if we can have a look at Lakeland right now and see what the conditions are there. So here is a new shot. That's no longer Fort Myers. That's in Lakeland. And very quiet road. And you'll notice that there's a lot of rain falling there as well.
We've got a question from Evelyn Rose saying, could it make a second peak above hurricane status?
Yes, it could.
It could. It's looking to be unlikely, but it definitely could.
View from Lakeland there. Let's pan back out of that one. Let's see if we can at least find one in color. A lot of black and white cams that are obviously in the night mode. There's one there. Just check the ones further south. There's a camera that we might be able to look at. And fairly blustery at that location as well in Lakeland, but when we're looking towards these areas, we're mainly looking out for the potential flooding and flash flooding that might occur in this area with very heavy rainfall. You can already see the ground looks quite heavily saturated with some gusty winds, possibly gusting the tropical storm force. But winds aren't that crazy in this particular location.
Someone has said, how bad did it get in Punta Gorda? I'm pretty sure that's where Jim Cantori is, and seeing what he's gone through, it got pretty bad. It got a lot of the brunt of the storm. And someone else said, Force 13, you have such a pleasantly calm, soothing voice. I assume you're talking about Nathan, since my voice isn't really that following that description. But yeah, we don't like those panicking news shows that really go all crazy. We just want to bring you the latest information and not scare you guys, just provide you with the latest and up-to-date info.
I just, they're just so fake, aren't they? You just want real people. That's what I find.
Still catastrophic, dangerous.
And that's what I find. You just want. I'm a big fan of authenticity, of just.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's a fine line to balance, of course, because you've got to remain at least somewhat professional during a stream. Otherwise, you don't have credibility. But you also want to be personable to people watching as well. Let's get some more questions there as well. Do we think that Ian made landfall stronger than it was supposed to be? Yes, thanks to that intensification phase before landfall. Daniel says, my mum's parents lived in Fort Myers and their home was completely demolished, lost all belongings, and her parents had to get evacuated via a boat. Yep, we're going to hear a lot of those kinds of stories. To Loco16 says, did we see the photos of Tampa Bay? The water receded several meters as the storm approached. Very impressive. We saw a few pictures of that just before sunset, which it did look like it had receded quite a bit. Would Connecticut get hit by Ian? Question there. I don't think so. I really don't think. Certainly not directly.
No, I don't.
We're really talking about remnants, but I don't think so either. And what do you think max wind near Disney World would be? Looking at the storm's progress right now, I think you'll probably only get low tropical storm force winds. You might crack 50 miles per hour, but I don't think you're going to get anything too crazy. And what do you think peak surge was? I'm just going to say 18 feet is what NHC was forecasting, so just leave it as that. And Patrick says, hola, live in the chat. Any updates regarding Ian on your end? Well, I don't know. I'm just covering it. I don't really have much to say. And I think Patrick wants to join back in as well. So I'll bring him in here. And I'm just going to take a few minutes out here whilst we keep looking at the Lakeland webcam. So Patrick, good time to do a little bit of a monologue of your own there. I'll hand it over to you.
Monologue indeed. Alrighty. So flash flood emergency still remains in effect for let me actually find this real quick. The flash flood emergency still is in effect for the following counties: Hardy, DeSoto, Highlands, Charlotte, Manatee, and Sarasota. And based off of radar estimates, radar has estimated a widespread totals of 10 to 14 inches across much of the central, west central, and southwest Florida areas. There is debris flying in areas, as well as training thunderstorms which will lead to a more substantial flash flood threat up near the Orlando metro area. I also want to point out that if you are within these areas that are currently still impacted by the still very dangerous hurricane, you need to stay off the roads immediately. Actually, you need to stay off the roads in general. If you are on the road right now, pull over into a safe area and abandon your vehicle for more safe shelter. Also, updates on power outages. I believe we have either reached 2 million power outages, or have exceeded 2 million power outages. Ian, Category 2 hurricane, 100 mile an hour wind gust, pressure of 965, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure it's 968 at the moment.
968. Okay. Also, updates on Naples and Fort Myers fire departments. I know we mentioned that earlier. Still no updates from there. Scanners are still down in the area, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, very historic storm, very historic proportions. And this is going to be one hell of a cleanup for Florida in the next couple of days. And
I'm seeing a lot more questions coming in. First of all, for the person that is in Disney World asking about the winds, I am in the same situation, and I can tell you that definitely low to mid-end tropical storm force winds.
All right.
Force 13, how do you think this would unfold in Charlotte? It's probably going to be. It's probably going to be a remnant or TD at that point, I believe.
It's gonna be a remnant low as it passes over the Charlotte area. However, as we've seen with instances like I'm not gonna say storm name, but as we've seen with instances of these kinds of things where we have remnant lows of tropical systems over land, those can cause some considerable impacts, regardless if it's a weak little remnant low, cause flooding, definitely on the mountainside as well. Western mountains, Piedmont, North Carolina. There's definitely going to be a higher tornado, not higher tornado, well, obviously higher tornado threat across the whole board with any remnant low that's shear and cables thin. But flooding is going to be the main concern for the southwestern Virginia, western North Carolina mountains, Piedmont, Charlotte area, upstate South Carolina. I would honestly say if you're in the states of North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, if you are in the path of this potential, well, it's going to be a remnant low by the time it gets up to there, but if you're in the path of Ian, I would highly advise preparing for the storm and honestly rushing your preparations to completion, because if you don't prepare in enough time, you'll be unable to prepare when the storm bears down on you. Although it's going to be much weaker, it can still cause considerable impacts, like we've been reiterating for the past couple of hours here.
You sound tired.
Yeah, I'm tired.
Here is the center of the storm on the imagery once again, just to point out where it is. It's near Sebring, just to the east, and gradually, by looks of things, moving northeast. It is actually not far from the edge of the cone now, so it's going to be another eastward shift when we get to the 11 p.m. advisory. So
it's a lot of eastward shifting going on right
again
now.
And once again, the icon's right. So I've just come to that realization now that it is moving east to forecast. That means it'll have more time over water, and it may trend stronger at the next advisory. Watch out for that.
Oh my god. This
All
is
right,
icon, right?
I'm seeing some more questions. Someone has asked, why doesn't it lose strength over land? It has lost 55 miles an hour of strength over land over the past 6 hours, so definitely weakening. What's up with the I names getting so strong? I've heard this a lot, and I'd say the best answer is that a lot of I names form around September and August, and that is prime time for hurricanes. So I just suppose all of the I names, since they're forming in August and September, they have a lot of favorable conditions. So it just so happens that they're usually the ones that happen to be pretty damaging or gather a lot of energy.
Hey Nathan, Icon wants a 965 landfall in
Yep.
near Wilmington. So
Oh,
if
has that gone
we
even
s-
further east? Oh my goodness,
if
it must have.
actually not, I want to go right into near the Myrtle South of Myrtle Beach.
Yes,
So
that's more
yeah,
like it.
if we see an eastward shift in the not eight, I am tired from doing
All right.
nonstop 12 hours plus. If we see an eastward shift in the National Hurricane Center's advisory, I think Icon's going to come into realization, and
Damn.
I think the East Coast would now be in a more substantial threat.
Oh no,
Although,
you can't say that.
although minor, obviously, but not as but like
Could be the end of the world.
What was that?
That was just my
Sorry.
button. Let's take a caller. Comrade Shadow, it's the second time being on here today, I think. But what's the latest with you?
Do you know if this thing is going more east into the Atlantic next to the East Coast, or is this just going to track a little bit more west onto land?
Well, we've just been discussing that, and as far as I can see, it's going much east of forecast right now over Florida. Whether that will change in a hot minute, I don't know. But at this time, NHC will have to move that cone much further east at the next advisory, so that means more time over the Atlantic. Yeah.
So,
With this storm, anything is really possible.
Oh man, I hate it. Thanks for calling.
Nathan,
Yes.
with the track and the comment about possibly moving eastward, that would indicate that there's no steering mechanism. I'm thinking of what you said a few hours ago. There's probably nothing steering it.
Well, I don't know actually. It might indicate a weakening of the ridge, the subtropical ridge, and maybe more pull from the front than expected. Let's see if we can talk to Star Jan right now. Hello, you're on the air.
Oh, hello, Nathan.
Hi.
Oh, it's not about Ian, but I was wondering about Fiona. Would the name possibly get retired because of its effects on Canada?
We had a little discussion about that. Well, usually we don't talk about retirements on these big events, but Fiona is obviously a storm that's been and gone now, so I guess we can start that discussion. And I think most of us concluded that the answer is probably yes.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
when you
looking
consider it was
likely.
I mean, people are saying it was much worse than Juan, and Juan got retired, so it's going to have to be a yes, I think. What do you think?
I think so, because I live in Canada, but not close to Nova Scotia, though.
All right.
Nathan, have you read the latest advisory on Ian?
The position update.
Yep.
Yep, we had all of that.
The 10 p.m. one?
Yeah. The 11 p.m. is going to be the big one from the National Hurricane Center. That's when they'll come out with that new forecast advisory and any new information. I wonder if they'll continue to drop that intensity another 5 knots. That would then bring it down to a Category 1 if that happened. And then, well, the pace of this weakening is quite remarkable, actually, to consider that it's now only... I mean, just a Category 2, obviously it's still a strong 100 mile per hour storm. But who knows, if they drop it even further to Category 1, then maybe chances are that it will drop to tropical storm before it emerges off the coast of Florida. And that gives us at least a fighting chance that it won't re-strengthen to a hurricane before its eventual final landfall, wherever it is on the...
It is expected by the NHC to actually... before emerging off the coast of Florida, east coast of Florida, it's supposed to actually weaken down to a tropical storm. So
yeah, that's what we're thinking.
I expect to wake up to a tropical storm probably around 65 miles an hour. I believe that's what NHC is forecasting as well. But seeing at how fast the NHC has been guessing how fast this thing is weakening, well, not guessing, but seeing how fast they've been estimating it's weakening and how they're dropping it basically 5 knots every hour, I expect that will probably continue. And I I know that most people here know that tropical storms tend to weaken a bit slower over land, so the weakening will definitely slow a bit, but it will definitely continue to weaken over the next few hours, and it may even just only maintain once it emerges over water. But I definitely expect a tropical storm soon, and possibly restrengthening to a hurricane over the Atlantic once it reemerges tomorrow. But it's not going to stay a hurricane for much longer.
Nathan, how much time do I have to read a public information statement from Tampa?
Well, it doesn't look like there's really anything going on at all here, so take your time, go ahead.
Alrighty, so I'm going to read the precipitation reports that have been over 4 inches across basically the entirety of Tampa CWA. So we're going to start with Charlotte County, Grove City, 6.5 inches, Punta Gorda, 5.23 inches, and Punta Gorda again, 4.52 inches. Hardy County, 2.5 miles south of Ona, 12.16 inches, and Hillsborough County, Lithia, 5.89 inches, Wimauma, 506 inches. Not enough, 5.06 inches. Sun City Center, 4.47 inches. Plant City, 4.31 inches. 4.5 miles northeast of Fort Lonesome, 4.21 inches. Lutz, 4.09. Sun City Center, 4.01. Now, if I do repeat some of these locations twice, do note that the first time I mentioned them is probably the more accurate rainfall total. In Manatee County, 7.6 miles east of Lake Manatee State Park, 6.76. Sarasota Braden, 6.74. 3.6 miles east of Onico, 4.61. In Polk County, Frostproof, 8.34. Mulberry, 6.36. Frostproof again. Indian Lake Estates, 5.45. Auburndale, 5.04. Lakeland, 5.01. Bartow Airport, 4.83. Lake Wales, 4.65. Davenport, 4.35. 2 miles west southwest of Highland City, 4.07. Sarasota County, 2.0 miles east of Warm Mineral Springs, 11 inches. 4.3 miles north of Northport, 8.24 inches. Venice Gardens, 6.67 inches. And Nokomis, 5.46 inches. And now to the county that everybody has been waiting for, and that is good old Lee County, Florida. Oh, wait. Did I miss Hillsborough County? No, I did do Hillsborough County. Okay. 5 miles west of Lehigh Acres, 14.42 inches. Ding, Darling, NWR, 8.71 inches. Bonita Shores, 7.94. 1 mile west of Fort Myers, 6.01. North Fort Myers, 5.88. 1 mile west of Fort Myers again. 1 mile southwest of Fort Myers, 5.02. 3 miles north of Estero, 5.01 inches. Fort Myers, 5 inches. East-southeast of Fort Myers Shores by 1 mile, 4.67 inches. Southwest Internat, I think that's Southwest Florida International Airport, 4 inches. 2 miles northeast of Quail Creek Estate, 4 inches. And 3 miles southeast of Estero, 4.20 inches. That is a lot of numbers, and they are collected from a variety of sources with varying equipment exposures. We thank all volunteer weather observers for their dedication. However, not all data listed are considered official.
So there we have it. What was the highest amount in that list?
Highest rainfall total from what I know is in Lee County alone. I don't know if the 14.42 inches is actually
Right.
the highest. I think there could be higher than that based off of radar estimation, but as it stands, the highest amount of rain so far based off of this report is about 15 inches. in Lee County, which is an absolute no surprise.
Yep. So once again, we're looking at this webcam from Lakeland, Florida. Just because we really wanted to see what the conditions look like there. They're getting quite a bit of action. Actually, right now it's probably more interesting around Kissimmee. Let's see what we can find up there and see if there's any cameras. There's plenty along the, I think that's the Florida Turnpike there. Let's see what we can see in this area. Where should we look? Just looking at the radar and cross-checking. I reckon here, near St. Cloud, it's about to get pretty
I
bad.
could turn my camera on for you guys since I'm basically right next to there, but it's a stage.
Just looking to see if there's any cameras that have decent lighting in this area. That one's not too bad. Let's see if we can have a look at this, the Turnpike. Full screen, not far from St. Cloud. And it looks like on radar this area is about to get a pretty nasty red band. So let's just change that title from Lakeland to, I think that's still, is that closer? Well, we'll just put it under Kissimmee. So this is a live look at this area now, and still a few vehicles going along. Of course, it's getting rather late in the evening as well, so I imagine traffic volume is going to stay very low, as it should be, especially here, which is still ahead of the storm. And Orlando getting quite a battering as well right now, to be honest. But I just want to look at this area particularly because it looks like it's going to get really bad in a moment. So this is a live look at Kissimmee, just to the east of Kissimmee. And this band should be arriving anytime. You're already seeing it getting worse here on this camera, to be honest. So heavy rainfall here, and any of these real bad significant bands could cause some flash flooding, and we could get some more prolonged flooding concerns when we get some massive rainfall amounts maybe in these areas. We could be seeing some amounts in isolated parts up to 30 inches possible from this storm over the course of its passage.
According to traffic maps, I don't see a lot of congestion on I-75 as well.
Well, I wouldn't think so at this hour.
Yeah, obviously, but there shouldn't be people on the roads anyway during hurricane conditions / tropical storm conditions. But what else did I want to recollect?
There's this pole in front of us that's bending and wobbling quite a bit in the squally winds.
Oh, okay.
So, quite a lot.
I just cannot look back at this damage photo or search photo from Fort Myers that showed multiple cars like literally submerged and trees legit like completely destroyed at the top of their bark. It's just heartbreaking to see what we've been seeing so far, and I am extremely happy, and it is a miracle that there have been, well, over time there's going to be more info coming out of these areas where we'll see the light of day. We'll actually be able to see more of the areas where there are higher impacts. But I pray that that fatality count stays below what it already is, or stays low as possible. But you always have to come to realize that you never know what's going to go down. Anything can happen. Anything can change. This is the tropics world we live in. We can see anything happen where, yeah.
There's a comment about any embedded lightning strikes, and it looks like there are a handful around Orlando. And is that a tornado warning near Daytona Beach?
Also to point out, DeSoto County in Florida. Actually, I'm gonna Nathan,
First,
give me just a second.
Before I
I'm
answer
just gonna pull up the.
so there's a few lightning strikes going through Orlando and some isolated stuff, but there's a tornado warning just north of Ormond Beach, not far from Flagler Beach, which you can
tornado?
see on this image.
Tornado warning?
Yep, that's a tornado warning that's active right now.
Are you kidding me?
Including Interstate
Okay.
95 there, just north of Ormond Beach. So that's a tornado warning right now.
Yeah, tornado warning indeed. I don't see anything too crazy. The rotation, but yeah, tornado warning definitely. In fact, take shelter now if you're in Ormond by the sea, Ormond Beach, and anywhere basically, yeah. If you're in Volusia County, yeah, definitely take shelter. Now going back to what I was saying, this tornado warning isn't a. It doesn't look very significant on velocity, and so it's not really going to do too much. There also could be some radar interference, so we really can't tell. But I'm going to go over the okay, so unfortunately, here we go. So according to poweroutage.us, 98% of Charlotte County is out without power.
Wow.
Almost 100% of DeSoto County is out without power except one singular house. Current power outages across the entire state of Florida is about 2,002,007. The counties with the worst amount of power outages, or the most significant amount of power outages, is going to be Lee, Charlotte, and DeSoto counties, where there is a almost 90% percentage or higher of all people without power. So
Wow.
yeah, there is definitely widespread power outages across Southwest Florida, and in particular, DeSoto County was hit the absolute hardest, as the entire county is basically without power. I would expect those power outages to actually rise, given the fact that, I would expect the power outages to honestly rise as they move off towards the east. And that tornado warning, I will actually quickly read some cities that are actually in the, there's only 2 cities that are actually in the path of this tornado warning that are listed in the National Weather Service actual warning. It says Ormond by the sea and Ormond Beach Airport. Move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building. Take cover now. I would say that if you are in a flash flood warning, you would have to obviously prioritize the tornado threat, but you have no worries of flooding up there right now, so prioritize the tornado threat.
Pardon me. Right now we're looking back at the Kissimmee camera, looking just east of that area. A few vehicles coming down the road here, and a big red zone that's on radar right now. Some very heavy weather there right at the moment. Looks like a convoy of trucks just moving through. Maybe even been military vehicles, I couldn't quite tell there. I think they were just normal trucks. Or vans even, actually. Didn't look that large. But anyway, looking at this imagery, still lots of rain falling there, very heavy stuff. And we're still looking out the potential of flash flooding in this area, and we're expecting very high amounts of rain for the entire region from anywhere along the Interstate 4 corridor, really, from Lakeland up to the coast, and possibly for Kissimmee, St. Cloud, Orlando, up towards Titusville, eastwards. But here is what we're seeing right now on one of these cameras, probably one of the worst places that we can show you at this moment in time, at least for current weather. And in terms of what we've already seen, the cleanup from the storm surge will probably start tomorrow in Fort Myers and Cape Coral, although the conditions may still be too dangerous there tomorrow to start actually making steps forward. We'll see if we can take a look at some webcams there tomorrow if they are back up, but we could be without power in that area for some time. But right now we're following the progress of this storm in real time still. Its center is just getting towards northeast of Sebring now. It's been hovering around Sebring for quite a while. And the imagery is still up to date. I just had to check. And looks like another big wave of rain here near Kissimmee. You can see one of those poles, a light pole, wobbling around. And the trees down there. Let's take a few more questions. What was the worst hurricane in the past 3 years? Straight up question there.
Straight up question. 3 years, so we're going back all the way to 2019.
Dorian then.
Dorian's my only answer. Yeah,
yep.
Dorian's my only answer. Any other questions?
Will Broward County get hurricane force winds? No, you're out of those.
No, you're out of it.
Probably even out of tropical storm force winds now or very soon. And what do you think we'll get from the 11 p.m. update? I'll tell you what we're definitely going to get, and that's going to be a cone shift east. So watch out for that, and we'll bring you the information as soon as we get it, and we will show you what it is. But it looks like the trend will be east. And that increases the chances of potential re-intensification over the western Atlantic off the southeastern United States. But we'll wait and see. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Still a category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. It will also be interesting to see if they drop it again, as they've done at every hour update. I think they have, yeah. Since the landfall, or since an hour before landfall, actually.
Hey, Nathan.
Yeah.
So I am currently looking at Mesoanalysis over the region, and I am noticing some good signs. The Cape has advected so far east that there is going to be no more buoyant support in the atmosphere to maintain supercells to produce tropical tornadoes. The only bad thing though about this is that there are some still fringes of the Florida coastline that are still within the within areas of Cape, and shear is definitely there. The photographs, I'm looking at the photograph map currently, and they are definitely they're decently favorable. However, with trends, they're going to get much smaller, and also they're going to be basically veered to the point where it's going to. Yeah, so basically the Cape is advecting so far east that there's going to be no buoyant support for the stabilization, or actually destabilization of these supercells. However, any supercell that forms over the water, I would say, has a chance of producing water spouts still. But for tornadoes on land, tonight's threat is basically over. But I would, yeah, we'll see. Interesting little things as I think about.
This is Force 13 Live. We're running for another half hour or so until the National Hurricane Center produce their next update, and then we will, for good this time, end our coverage for today and redirect you to our radar live automated stream on the US channel, which is keeping you up to date on what we can see with the storm. And David, I've not actually seen that stream. Is it still looking all right? Does it need updating?
It's looking good. It's looking good.
Very good. Good to hear. So we're still looking out from Kissimmee, looking eastwards towards St. Cloud, and they had a pretty nasty band that's just gone through. We saw moments where it looked particularly bad here. And right now what I'm seeing on the latest radar is just near the very center, which, just to remind you, the center is still near Sebring, much further south, and I would say right on the edge of the cone now, which is fascinating. Very far east. And you just notice that little area to the left of some pink areas, so extremely tough stuff going on in there, and that's where you might get 100-mile-an-hour winds. I wonder what they'll show up on velocities, even though it's at a great distance. Well, it's low values because it's because of the angle. See some values further out though. Of course they're at altitude, but look towards Kissimmee, maybe getting tropical storm force winds now or soon. Quite a few areas that are getting quite windy when we look at that velocity. But it's the reflectivity that tells us more of the story, particularly with this radar site and what we're looking out at. And it is quite intense showers. And apart from David Vapor, you're still with us, and you're almost the last one standing. I don't know if you've got any comments for us before we get the NHC update.
Was that to me or somebody else?
I was just seeing if Vapor was still around. Seems to be the last one here apart from you, David.
Oh, I'm here. I was just about to unmute and point out that ever since second landfall, it's really been maintaining, like at least according to the NHC, it's been maintaining like the same path across the entire state.
Their forecast?
No, that's the updates from the NHC since about 5 p.m. update. 5 p.m. update. It's been maintaining the exact same path.
Oh yeah, well yeah, it would. They don't change the forecast in that 6-hour period.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
Yeah, they update its position, but they don't update the forecast until 11, which is why sometimes when they get it wrong, the cone looks really awkward at the intermediate advisory, because they don't update the forecast. Amanda says, thank you for the coverage. We have helped ease their nerves in unbelievable ways. I can only say that we appreciate that comment. I hope we're doing a decent job of doing that as much as possible. I doubt it's effective in every single case, because there are some places that have received the worst case scenario with this storm when it raked through the coast of obviously the areas that we're becoming much more familiar with throughout the day, Cape Coral and Fort Myers and all of those areas that have been blasted with those potentially 140 mile per hour gusts I think they got in some of those cities, and even higher winds near the areas of landfall. Sanibel Island particularly I think is in our minds right now. In the earlier part of the day when we were looking at the videos that Isaac was showing us from a few perspectives, the storm surge flowing in was absolutely immense, since it's in its speed as well as how treacherous and dangerous it was getting. But also when we were looking at that coastal camera right along the beach, and that camera survived for so long, probably only mounted to a post or something like that, because there are other posts in front of it, and it was starting to bend over towards the end, being completely blown over by those extremely strong winds and mountains of waves that were rushing in at well over 100 miles an hour. A person, if they were out there, wouldn't stand a chance. Thankfully no one was there, and eventually the camera did succumb. But even after the camera went underneath the waves, it still transmitted for a few more seconds before we finally lost the signal. And then we took a look at the surge rolling in at Cape Coral, and we saw what it was looking like at Englewood. Extremely powerful winds there. And we were looking at various other places as well. And then all of those cameras went down in the end. And then we went to the mainly the interstate cams and the some of the town cams in Sarasota and in Venice, and things were getting pretty hairy there as well. And though those cameras failed, apart from just a few in the end on Interstate 75 that we kept looking at. And now we've switched up quite a bit further towards the north, which is getting now closer to the main action. Once again, looking at this camera from just east of Kissimmee, looking out towards St. Cloud. And this area just had some heavy downpours not long ago. Is entering one or two other areas of red shortly, so we're going to get periods of calm, but I would say more often periods of stuff like this where you're getting real blowy winds moving in here and very heavy rainfall. I'm just wondering, there's a little patch down near the bottom of the screen on the left. I'm just wondering if that might be a pool of water and things starting to get a little bit flooded down there. So possibility, considering the amount of rain that we are expecting in this area. In some places in this corridor, the I-4 region, we could be seeing up to 30 inches of rain throughout this storm, and that's in a pretty short amount of time. National Hurricane Center will update with a full advisory shortly. They may weaken the storm a little bit. I think they might even keep the hourly updates running. I remember in previous occasions, I can't remember if they kept it going even till it weakened below hurricane force actually. So I believe that's what they get up to, and actually maybe even weaker than a hurricane. They actually keep it as hourly advisories for a little while, but I reckon they'll keep the hourly updates going. Let's see if we have some questions live right now. We're here for just a little bit longer until we get all of those updates from the National Hurricane Center. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, and if you fancy having a chat with us in the in our phone in here, you can call in on our Discord server, discord.gg/force13, or you could just take a look at our community there. We have over 4,000 weather trackers and hurricane trackers from all around the world, covering all kinds of different features. And I guess one day we're looking to be a leading weather provider, a coverage provider across the entire world. There's a lot of places that are underappreciated in coverage. Indeed, yesterday morning we had to split coverage, and we did a 3-hour stint on Typhoon Noru as it was making landfall in Vietnam. Almost was a very powerful landfall, historic nearly, for the area near Da Nang. But that storm dissipated rather quickly, as was expected, and we are now with undivided attention, as has been the case the whole day on Ian. And I don't think anything really could have wrestled the spotlight away from it as it was making landfall there. An extremely powerful storm, peaked at 155 mph winds. The pressure peak was 937, pending further reanalysis, I assume, later on. And now it's down to 100. Well inland, in fact, I would say it's probably exactly halfway through Florida, maybe even a little bit more now. So it's not exactly moving slowly when you consider that, but it will eventually clear through the whole Florida peninsula, we expect, by tomorrow afternoon at some point. Now, some comments there. Ballistes says Roki has an eye in the Western Pacific, so I'm not sure on that. I haven't been able to look at it once today, so I'll take your word for it. If it is looking pretty cool, then I imagine someone will do an update on it on the Force 13 channel. But at least from my perspective, I'll be finishing up this coverage and then retiring to bed, and we'll consider what coverage we have to do tomorrow. I don't know how extensive we'll be on tomorrow's updates. I'm sure we'll be doing some form of live streaming still on Ian. A really crazy event, possibly unprecedented. An extremely powerful Category 4 landfall in an area that doesn't usually get them. When you think of some of the other storms that made landfall on the western coast, which is generally more vulnerable, you think of Charlie first of all, which had a similar track but was much smaller. And then you think of Irma, which sort of did half the thing that Ian has done. And this will be worse than Irma, I would imagine. And then you've got storms such as Wilma that blew through in 2005, a little bit further south, but was moving much faster. And there was another storm that raced through Florida, almost, a little bit slower, but still much faster than Ian. I think it was a storm from a long time ago, something like 1938, I think. The Labor Day hurricane, of course, which made the most intense landfall on United States history, 892 millibars in the Florida Keys, and then powered along the western coast, paralleling the coast for a good while before eventually making landfall in the Bend area, way up further north. And then you've got, of course, the historic 1921 Tampa Bay hurricane, which made landfall just on the northern side of Tampa Bay as a Category 3. This storm trumps all of these in terms of its impacts to the areas that the storm affected. Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, up as far as potentially Sarasota, you could argue, Englewood, Venice, Naples, of course. Can't forget about Naples with the amount of surge they had, with the fire department apparently out of commission from what we've heard there, and storm surge effect apparently reaching to the roofs of homes. I think that was still in Naples. It certainly was the case in Fort Myers, up to the roofs of one-story houses. And so extremely severe storm surge. As we still look at the webcam along the turnpike, still generally looking eastwards as a large semi goes through there, and still substantial amounts of rain falling. And this will be a trend that we'll be seeing for quite a while. Let's switch back to the radar again and just show off where the worst areas are at this moment in time, coming up to 11 o'clock. And you'll see big banks of red zones there that are moving through that whole Kissimmee, Orlando area along Interstate 4. I'll see if I can maybe grab another camera that might be closer to some of those red zones. Let's see what we might be able to see on I-4. And it looks like getting towards Lakeland, actually. There might be some kind of action. So let's see if we can look at a different camera and see what we can see. Here's Interstate 4. And the first thing you'll notice on this view is that there is a lot of wet surfaces. Can't quite tell what's what there actually in terms of where the road is, and looks like there's some traffic cones on the road there, or some kind of obstructions. As a vehicle rolls down here.
And Nathan, I've got an update for the system in the Westpac.
Go ahead, what's the update?
Tropical storm Roki has developed a small microwave eye feature with a cyan ring, which typically indicates imminent rapid intensification. Animated water vapor imagery depicts robust poleward outflow
Can we
with
not?
transverse banding along the western and northern semicircles. Additionally, low vertical wind shear, warm sea surface temperature values 28-29 Celsius supports further intensification, and the last three
All right, so
frame.
here is the Western Pacific right now, and you can see those two storms. Roki is the new small one there, and it is blowing out an eye.
Yes.
Models didn't
Yeah, it
see
looks like
this
it's
one coming at all, by the way.
Yeah, that looks like it's gonna be a typhoon status by probably the morning.
Yeah, there you go. And the other storm, Kulap, which is moving off towards the westernmost islands of Alaska, across the what's that peninsula called now? The not peninsula, but the Aleutian Islands. Actually, could strike those islands with a pressure in the low 940s in the next few days. So something else to keep abreast of. Although those populations are extremely minimal up there. But yeah, a typhoon, a small one, approaching there, not far from Okinawa. I think it's going to be moving off northeast away from the islands. But that was only forecasted by models to be a weak tropical storm. So yet again, models have had a nightmare in the last week or two. Haven't they really? They just have gotten almost everything wrong.
Joy Typhoon Warning Center has it. I'm just looking at the graphic, the track 75, 90 knots, so 75 knots gusting to, I think it's 90 on the 29th of 12th ZD.
Let's get a few more comments whilst we still have some time before the update. Do we think there'll be another hurricane this year? Well, I think there definitely will. I mean, it doesn't take that much to cause a hurricane, whether it'll affect land or not. That's another matter. Peak estimate for Spooth, is it? Carolina. Oh, they've just spelt south wrong. I thought it was a place. South Carolina landfall. So yeah, if it does make landfall in South Carolina, we could be looking at a very worst case scenario, category 2, but most models are suggesting it will only be a moderate and possibly high-end tropical storm, so winds 60, maybe 70 miles per hour. And let's see, what's the tornado threat in North Carolina looking like tomorrow? I haven't heard much about it, but I guess if any of our team, well, Walter's here as well, I should just mention. I don't think you'll know much about that, but I could be wrong.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
To me. To you as well, I guess.
Well, whilst we're talking, what's your thoughts on what you've witnessed with Ian? I imagine, given that you're in East Asia, last time you saw it was probably when it was making landfall.
Well, I missed the landfall.
You missed it.
I think because I slept. But I saw the reactions when in 12 hours ago, I guess, around when Recon find data reaching like winds of 140 knots, and everybody just considered it shocking. To be honest, so was I actually. But the thing is, this thing does overperform himself, I should say, and as you can see, it caused a lot of damage in, parts in Central Florida as we speak.
Right, regarding tornadoes tomorrow, I don't think you're going to get much bother with tornadoes in North Carolina tomorrow. I don't think so. I was looking at South Carolina, but I think it was the same in North as well. Let me just check one more time. Yeah, I think, although this model doesn't go out very far. Hold on, let me just check the evening hours. You might get maybe an odd one, but I really doubt it. I think it's going to be the day after. Andrew says, I live in Destin, Florida, and it was crazy to have such a gorgeous day here, but when you look out of the Gulf, you literally see the outer clouds of Ian on the horizon. Yep, I can imagine that.
Could imagine the beauty of it, but also what it's gonna bring to you. It's quite horrifying, actually.
Alright, that's pretty much everything from comments right now. I know that someone else wants to join, so let's see if we can get them on the air. Someone who's decided to call themselves My Yard's Flooded. So, I guess that gives us a little idea of what you'd like to talk about tonight.
Yeah, there. Yeah, there.
So, what's
Sure,
up?
Is your yard's really flooded?
Yeah, there. Big time.
Oh,
It sure is.
mm-hmm.
Oh dear.
Alright, thanks for the comment.
Yeah.
What happened?
What?
What happened?
I think we
It's
had him
awesome,
on.
but ain't alive.
Hey,
I
he
think
wants
we
to-
had him on last night towards the end as well.
We're waiting for the 11
We are.
a.m. update.
Conditions
PM.
are
Coming
the
in within
conditions
5
are
minutes.
pretty poor now on this section of Interstate 4, well to the west of Kissimmee. So these areas getting a little bit of red in the radar returns right now. But the center of the storm, I need to just remind you again, when we look back towards that radar in full view, you will note that I've just pressed the button I shouldn't have pressed. The eye of the storm is around here now, which is right on the very edge of that forecast cone, and so the NHC will have to make the cone more further east rather than what it was previously, which is like here. They're going to have to change that cone, and it will be a shift to the east, and what's important about that is that could mean more time for strengthening possible in the Western Atlantic as it approaches the Carolinas. We'll find out what the NHC think of it in just a moment. The update should be out anytime, and as soon as we get it, we'll let you know. 4 minutes to 11.
So, I'm just catching up with the winds. In 10 p.m. they said 100 miles per hour, right? And in 8 p.m. they said 115.
Yes, and they've been dropping it every hour.
5 knots every hour.
Pretty much. It went from 155 to 150 to 145 to 140 to 130 to 125 to 115. So they missed out 120, and then 105, and then 100.
100.
And shortly we'll find out.
Pretty consistent. Yeah, pretty consistent actually. Not a rapid dissipation, but
Yes,
slowly
please. We'd love rapid dissipation.
yeah, but it didn't.
No.
That's the point.
Well, it's fallen from a great height. It could have kept its intensity a lot better than it did. The eye completely collapsed a little while ago, and since then, the intensity has been declining even more steeply, at 10 miles down every hour now, it seems. Or at least it did for a short time. The update is tantalizingly close. As soon as we give you the new info, we'll call a halt to our stream tonight. And at that point, I'd recommend everyone rests up, because it's been an extremely long day. And overnight, this storm will continue to move through east of Orlando. Should be substantially east of there, to the point where you shouldn't get hurricane force winds, although you'll probably still get some moderate tropical storm force winds. The areas that we might be looking for hurricane conditions could be near the east coast just before it weakens to tropical storm status. Maybe Titusville, but we'll have to see. It might weaken to a TS before then. and they're leaving this until the very last minute regarding a possible, well, a likely certain update, which is due in just 1 minute. And I say they're leaving it late, even though it's, of course, it's still technically early, but we're used to the National Hurricane Center producing their advisories sometimes very early, ahead of the deadline, sometimes up to 30 minutes early. Of course, in these situations, they do it pretty much right on time. Anyway, the update is out, and they are going with 90 miles per hour and a pressure of 972 millibars, so it is down to a Category 1, and they are still expecting a peak, well, not a peak, but for the storm to hold at 65 miles per hour as it exits the coast and not strengthen any, and then make landfall and then move back inland. Exactly where it makes landfall, I'll have to find out later, but just a note, the hurricane watch for Lake Okeechobee is discontinued, the tropical storm warning south of Boca Raton is discontinued, and the storm surge watch has been discontinued from Flamingo eastward to the Card Sound Bridge, including Florida Bay. So
I doubt it not intensify, to be honest.
A little bit. Structure problems, though, possibly. A summary of the watches and warnings that remain in effect then. Hurricane warning for Chokoloskee to the Anclote River, including Tampa Bay. Sebastian Inlet to the Flagler-Volusia County line. Storm surge warning for Suwannee River southward to Flamingo, Tampa Bay, Flagler-Volusia line to the mouth of the South Santee River and St. Johns River. Tropical storm warning for Indian Pass to the Anclote River, Boca Raton to Sebastian Inlet, Flagler-Volusia County line to Surf City, Flamingo to Chokoloskee, Lake Okeechobee, Bimini, and Grand Bahama. Storm surge watch for north of South Santee River to Little River Inlet, hurricane watch for Flagler-Volusia County line to the South Santee River, and a tropical storm watch for north of Surf City to Cape Lookout, North Carolina. Let's check what the full advisory says from their public section. Continuing to batter the Florida Peninsula with winds, storm surge and flooding expected to move into the Atlantic tomorrow. 90 miles per hour sustained winds. Its current position 27.5, 81.4 west, 70 miles south of Orlando, 80 miles southwest of Cape Canaveral. 972 millibars moving north-northeast at 8. Maximum sustained winds have decreased to near 90 miles per hour. Further weakening is expected for the next day or so, but Ian could be near hurricane strength when it moves over the Florida East Coast tomorrow and when it approaches the northeastern Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina coasts on Friday. There's been no special mentions for any new observations. And the storm surge expectations have now been lifted for those worst areas that we were looking at earlier, obviously. So the maximum areas that we might still see for storm surge are Englewood to Bonita Beach, including Charlotte Harbor. 8 to 10 feet is now their expectation. And as for rainfall, central and northeast Florida, we're expecting storm totals of 12 to 20 inches with isolated or local maxima up to 30. Coastal Georgia and low country of South Carolina, 4 to 8 inches with local maximums of 12. Upstate and central South Carolina, North Carolina, and southern Virginia, 3 to 6 inches with local maxima of 8 across western North Carolina. Widespread, life-threatening, catastrophic flash and urban flooding with major to record flooding along rivers will continue across central Florida. Widespread, considerable flash, urban and river flooding is expected across portions of northeast Florida, southeastern Georgia, and eastern South Carolina tomorrow through the weekend. Locally considerable flash, urban and river flooding is possible this weekend across portions of the southern Appalachians, with limited flooding possible across portions of the southern mid-Atlantic. I don't know if they're going to keep doing the hourly updates. I think they probably will. It is still a 90 mile per hour hurricane. Let's check to see if they've updated the cone, and will it be a shift east? Yes, it is. definitely a shift east, and now the entire cone is offshore, off the Florida coast there, and it continues to turn north, and then a landfall just east, somewhere in between Beaufort and Charleston. I heard a little wow in the background from one of our participants. What are your thoughts
So
on
the
that, Carl?
thing, wait. So the thing is that they think that it's gonna exit Florida and then not to maintain its intensity.
Yeah, so leaving Florida at 65, holding
So it hits
65.
South Carolina at 65 as well.
Yes,
I doubt it.
but they're still not fully sure, as you can see, because hurricane watches are still in effect. So they're a bit concerned it might come back to bite them. And
But if the cone moves like this, it's gonna be quite interesting. What's gonna unfold? Yeah.
I
They're
mean,
taking this serious.
knowing the character Ian has been recently,
Yeah.
you never know what it might do over there. But here's hoping it weakens, of course, because I mean, we'd rather not be doing all of this coverage. We'd rather be sitting relaxing in a deck chair somewhere. But
Yes.
this is what we got to do. Serious conditions still occurring, with 90-mile-per-hour winds at the 11 p.m. advisory. Well,
All right. So the NAM 3 kilometers calmed down a lot.
oh,
So which means I can kind of use it for severe weather forecasting now.
okay.
So
So
I'm
what's
just
it saying?
cross-referencing that, but I'm only using instability because I know everything else is gonna be wacko. But NAM is very good at instability
Go on then.
forecasting. So the HER basically underperforms instability for some reason. RAP's a bit better, but the NAM is 3 kilometer for some reason is the best. So sorry. Having a bit of a cold here.
Oh.
We got about 2,000 Cape. Supposed to advect on the shores of North Carolina in 2 days' time. This is mainly going to be a nighttime threat for tornadic activity, although actually it will go into nighttime. It will start in the day. But we have multiple supercells that will not only form on the coastline and then move inland. We may have some that form straight up on land, which will be interesting. So, if I look at the HUD, the tornado threat has uptrended from the last run, so stuff is changing pretty rapidly with the model runs for that threat right there.
Let's get our final caller on. Street Kayaker. Hello, you're on the air. The silence is concerning. Hello?
Mate, you're on. Hey.
Hello?
Hello,
Hey.
you're on the air.
Hello?
Hi.
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
We hear you.
I can't hear you right now,
Oh,
but
they can't hear us.
I've been looking at my
I say.
weather models. It's on hurricane.io, and I see that it turns back toward Cuba and hits Savannah at about 165 miles per hour. Which I know seems a little bit off.
Hurricane.io is a
What my
game.
models are seeing right now.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Once again, I'm sorry, I
That's-
can't hear you.
That's
Sad.
why.
Sorry, Street Kayaker. Well, that's a game.
Not even
apparently.
joking. Hurricane.io is a game.
All right. Well, there you go. That's a game. Maybe he didn't know. I'm
doesn't.
quite blown away with the amount of messages of thanks that we've had during our coverage today. It's been really, I don't really know what to say. We do this because it's what we're expected to do, number one, but also because we care, and it's extremely important to deliver all of this information. It's really tough as a presenter and all of our team in our organization. It's really tough sometimes, very taxing and draining to be producing all of this content and coverage live on the air and keeping concentration up the whole time. It's really difficult. But there we go, at the end of another day of coverage. We will now be going off the air, except at least our commentary will. But we have several other live streams that are still active across the Force 13 network. We're going to send you on a redirect to our US stream, which will be showing live radar. But you can also check out the main channel streams. We're still running a stream, obviously, on Ian's satellite imagery over here on the Force 13 main channel. So feel free to subscribe to the main channel and the US channel for the latest updates. US channel tends to cover more domestic storm activity, severe weather and whatnot. Was obviously running an automated stream on tonight, well, currently this hurricane. Main channel, of course, covers tropical activities all around the world, and I imagine we'll still be coming back for quite a bit more coverage tomorrow to examine the flooding that's going on across Florida that's likely going to be occurring by then, and of course to assess the storm's future. So that track shifted eastwards a little bit, and we'll be back, I'm sure, to talk you through more of this event as it continues into tomorrow. Today was a pretty historic day for southwestern Florida in terms of that landfall intensity. Really extraordinary build up to how it happened. Thanks to my team and for the viewers and everyone who called in into helping make this stream possible and hopefully extremely useful. And we'll see you again soon. Have a good night.